Good morning. Happy President's Day. This is Lead Bullets for Life, bringing you another new toy. Folks, if you are revolver fans, especially big bore revolvers, you can probably guess what's in this box already. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a peek at it. And here we have it. This is the Smith & Wesson model 629-6, and it came with two grips on it. The whole grips here, the ones I love the most because they fit well properly. By the way, before doing anything else, let's do a safety check. There are no rounds in the cylinder. Getting back to the grips, it came with the original Smith & Wesson rubber grips. They're not quite Pachmeyer's, a little bit firm, but I guess they're better than nothing. Not as pretty as the old wood grips that were issued to these Smith & Wessons, but I'm pretty sure it'll fire a little bit more comfortable with hot loads. Anyways, I purchased this revolver from a nice old gentleman who was a retired police officer, and I met him and his friend Jack when I purchased this revolver to do the transfer at a local gun shop. They're both retired officers, and my hat is off to them for serving the public well. And the nicest gentleman you want to meet. Anyways, getting back to the gun, it's a 6-shot 44 Magnum, and it came with a 4-inch barrel. And from what Tom tells me, that had only been fired 100 times, like 2 boxes worth, and then he just stored it for a whole year. It really didn't fire too much, but it's in pristine condition. I mean, this thing just is gleaming, just very shiny. Anyway, I tried out the double action. It's very smooth. The single action is crisp. And it's a little too tight still. The cylinder is a little bit too tight. And I checked the fitting on to make sure it was tight enough, and it was, so it just needs to be broken a little bit more. Anyways, I like shooting mild cartridges out of this revolver. I used to have a 6-inch version of this same model, and hard times came upon me, and I had to sell it, and I got good money for it, and I just kind of figured, well, maybe I'll just, purchase it later on. Well, that later on came, and guess what? They were very more expensive, and they were hard to find. People are just holding on to these things. I mean, when you fire a 44 caliber slug out of these things, it just hits what it, what you pointed at. Very good bearing surface on the bullets itself. Whether you use a 240 grain or whether you use a lighter bullet, 200 grain and below, they shoot fine. For those who own these 44 Magnums, you don't have to fire punishing loads with them. They're for anybody who wants to learn how to shoot. I love, powder puff bullets or rounds out of these revolvers. They hit accurately. They fire without a whole lot of punishing recoil, and they're just plain fun to shoot. Especially when you see a big hole hit that bullseye, at 15 to 25 yards away, even in double action mode. Double action on it is very smooth. The single action is pretty good as well. I always want to show you something else too. A box of ammunition was given to me about 10 or 12 years ago, and it came from Tri-City. And if you look at the price on it, it's $17.91 for a box of 20, and they're 240 grain semi-jacketed hollow point rounds. And I'll show you what it looks like here. After all these years, they have that kind of like a little. Well, this one's in pretty good shape. Yeah. The lead isn't frosted up like some of the other ones here. I have kind of frosty looking. One of them is anyways. Probably because it's yeah, this one here. A little bit frosty on the tip there. That's fine. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this will shoot. Anywho, these rounds were kept in a drawer, stored in a cool place, so I'm pretty sure they'll still fire. Speaking of which, let's stop gabbing and let's go to the range and do a test fire. I have 2 loads today I want to be using. I'll be using a 210 grain 7-wad cutter, 44 caliber, and 430 size of 430. It has no gas check on it, by the way. These are gas check bullets. And I have an RCBS 240 grain, which measures out to 245 grain, and it's also a gas check based design. And for the 210 grain, which actually measures out to 220 or 219, is going to be using, I'll be using 5.1 grains of red dot. And on the 240 grain RCBS rounds, I'll be using 6 grains of Alliant Power Pistol. All right, let's get to the range and see what this thing can do.
I shot yours, so it makes it look he's more accurate. Fuck you. Yours is more accurate now. I shot yours.
Alright, we got it sighted in now. We're going to go ahead and put 6 shots in there. A little more to the right.